We made it. The stream started. I did it. Yay! This is my 4th stream in the last 3 days. I feel like I need to dial it back a little bit, but I am glad to be here nonetheless.
A busy bee.
I am busy. We hadn't done this show on my channel in forever because I've been so busy, and Ali's been pulling all the weight, so I figured I should, it's time I pull my own weight, pick myself up by the bootstraps for this show. So here we are, talking about villains. For anyone who might not know about the show, or anybody who might be new, this is the Ali and Renie show. We rotate between our channels like every other Friday, and we talk about world building and fantasy and writing. So that's gonna be the subject today, and we're gonna be talking about villains. And Ali has a presentation. Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I do.
A PowerPoint. We're in competition with a creative block with these presentations.
I mean, are we really?
No, Ali is kicking our ass, is what I meant to say. The creative block pales in comparison to Ali's presentations. Let me say the chat real quick though. Hello. Hello, lowest expectations. What's up? Michael D just said PowerPoint. I said I couldn't say it for a minute. I had a brain fart, mini stroke. Billy Powermax, hello. I met Billy last week for Free Comic Book Day. It was fun. It was great. Nice to meet you. 40% Zed, hello. We are late. But I mean, what did you expect?
Late, late but never gay.
Yeah, yes. Cam, what's up? People were talking about if we're the cat or the mouse.
That's what I told
you. Let there be booze. I'm gonna not drink tonight because
I am sick, so I'm only drinking my medicine.
That's good medicine.
By the way, go follow my link. It's on my YouTube and my Twitter.
Just starting off strong with the merchandising and the ads. I'm wearing this jacket. I never wear this jacket on screen. I don't know if you guys can see. It's all like ripped and stuff. It's kind of nice. Why my hair's covering it?
I have my blanket, my Viking blanket, because it's got a hood on it and I'm sick. And I wanted my comfort blankie.
That is a very comfortable blankie.
I know, yeah, I let you use it.
Yeah, it's so comfy and fuzzy. Oh. I have a Phoenix blanket like that. It's not, it doesn't have a hood, but it has like Sherpa lining. It's the best thing ever.
Can people buy it?
Yes, they can. Yeah. Do I have it on the store? I gotta double check. Shit. Yeah, go to my
Somebody go to her store and see if it's there.
Yeah, because I can't possibly do this myself. Yeah, it's made through the same fulfillment service or print-on-demand service. So they do have blankets. It's very nice. I think I made one for myself and I'm like, oh, it's summer, so whatever. But they're nice, so get one in case you get a cold like Ali and you'll be comforted.
Yes. Children are tiny germ factories, and my body is very susceptible to illness.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Oh, poor
it's
Ali.
Really fun. And
yeah, when she was super sick after Tampa, I thought I got conquered bad. She got it bad.
I was sick for like 2 months. It was so dumb.
Yeah, it was so horrible. Oh, I felt so bad.
It was okay. Why would you feel bad?
I felt bad for you.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Sick. I was
yeah, you didn't get me sick.
Oh. It was a sympathizing feel bad.
Holy Someone says I should get more sun.
Sun is overrated. Just sit at home and pop vitamin D pills. That's all I do. I don't go out. I sit at home and then I take meds and vitamins for all the things that I would be getting if I lived a healthy lifestyle.
It's like, eh, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Actually, the only vitamin that I take is like a hair and skin vitamin. I don't take that kind.
No, I take lutein, which is for your eyes, because I stare at a computer all the time and I don't want my eyes to get worse than they already are. And vitamin D, because I don't go out into the sun, and a couple like some like diet gummies supposed to help you lose weight. I don't think it really works, but I take it anyways. I'm like, maybe it'll help me lose like 0.002 pounds. Whatever. Better than nothing. So that's it. Holy Hand Grenades says they're surprised I haven't made Fiendish patches. I do have Fiendish patches. That is on the store. I know for a fact. So go to fiendishcomic.com/shop and you will be able to get yourself a Fiendish patch and also a jacket. I have a leather jacket for Fiendish. It's like embroidered and everything. It's fucking badass. So take it. Beastman says you need to take vitamin K with vitamin D. Really? I feel like that's a joke that I'm not getting.
Probably.
Okay. Yeah, probably. That's usually how it goes. Oh, thank you for the links. Lupin?
Thank
No,
you, some person.
lutein or lutein? Lutien. It's like good for your eyes. Also, my mom sends me these berries. They're called like goji berries. And it's like this Chinese thing. They're really good for your eyes. So,
I have these patches that are like vitamin patches that kind of do the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, I have a link. I have a link for those too.
Cool. Go buy Ali stuff with her links. Help her make money. Goji is goji, not gochi. In Chinese, it's gochi. So I always say gochi instead of, yeah. I say it funny. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm caught up on chat. Yeah. Should we jump into it? Because I don't want to keep you too long. You are ailing.
Yeah, sure.
Let's just
ailing.
Yeah, my poor friend. Oh, poor friend is ailing.
Kind of like the movie Breakable, except without super strength or a super immune system.
What? What happens in the movie?
The guy is like kind of a superhero. He's never gotten sick and he has like super strength and he can't be like hurt. That's me. Like I fall down and stuff like a lot. People ask me how I'm still alive. So like I can live through stuff, but like I'm not like him in that I'm very easily sick.
I see. Dillard is in chat.
It's not a clever metaphor right now.
No, I just didn't get it. I'm sure it was very clever. Hello, Dillard Draws. Thanks for joining us. Hello.
Hi,
okay.
Dillard.
So K helps absorption. Thank you for the tip. I guess I'll go get some vitamin K. Snarky is blaming Phil. We always blame Phil. I will blame Phil for everything, regardless of whether it's
his
good
fault.
or bad. Everything is his fault.
He's probably why I'm sick.
Yeah, it's Phil's fault that Ali's sick.
We don't live in the same state, but I'm sure like his sneeze traveled and
that my stream is late. He jinxed me to be unable to start any stream on time. It's also his fault. Yes, we're talking about villains. Let's go.
World building by crafting villains.
Oh, yeah.
Holy Hand Grenade says I sound like a baby. I can sound like a baby if you really want. I know how to complain.
Yeah. I can do that too if you want. I mean, I'm sure both of us can whine as much. We can very convincingly whine like a baby. But we're trying
if that's what you want, then I'll do it, but you're going to be even less happy than you are now. So, appropriately spooky / whatever the dots are called. What is that called? I'm sure you know.
Half tones. Those are called half.
Yeah. I was like, this is so us. I put a lot of thought
It
into this.
is. Oh my gosh.
Into
It's
choosing
not.
this template.
It's like kind of cute to me, though. It's not really scary.
Isn't it?
It's
It's cute,
cutesy.
scary.
Yeah. Cutesy.
All right.
Ooh.
What is the importance of villains? This is. You're welcome. The end.
Really great PowerPoint that took you 2 days. I'll read it to alleviate your throat. The importance of villains. Why are villains important? Because I assume I'll just extemporaneously elaborate a little bit. I guess they create conflict and tension.
We both can.
Ooh. Yeah. And they can promote character development, which is true. They can promote moral complexity. Yes. They are entertaining. They can add to the symbolism of your story. They can create allegory. They enhance immersion, engagement, and they elevate your story.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, when it comes to conflict and tension, it's kind of obvious, but villains are the central source of conflict in a story, usually. They drive the plot forward. And by doing that and being interesting, they keep the readers engaged. And their villainous actions create all the obstacles for the protagonists or protagonists.
So I heard somewhere that you know the point of view, or just sort of the whatchamacallit, mantra, that story is about a character. It's like boiled down to its basic building blocks is a character wants something, and then another person is trying to stop them from getting it. And usually you would think, well, the character that wants something is your protagonist, but you can also think of that, what if you flip it and that's the villain? What if it's the villain wants something and it's the protagonist trying to stop them? I think that it depends on the story. I don't think it's like a hard and fast rule, but sometimes I think I've been kind of debating this, because in a lot of stories that I've written, the antagonists and the villains, they're almost the more active ones, and the protagonists start out being reactive and then becoming proactive when they need to start solving problems to push back against their nemesis, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Fusebox with the super chat. Thank you. Fusebox for $5. Thank you. Outlaw Knights blurs the lines between villain and hero. Issue 1 is pretty straightforward, but not everything is as it seems. Very great, very well put. Very compelling pitch. Everyone to go check out Outlaw Knights. I believe that is still funding. Thank you for the super chat, Fusebox.
Yeah, so as far as it says character development as well, and moral complexity kind of goes together by challenging the beliefs and values, the strengths of the other characters, that it forces them to grow by having them confront flaws or confront beliefs or just meet a challenge. Whatever it is the catalyst for character development most of the time. So it allows for the protagonist's evolution. And oftentimes that goes through moral complexity by opposing ideologies and values. So an effective way to do it is by having a villain that raises questions about ethics and justice, and and even like the oldest stuff where it's good and evil. So it gets your audience engaged and entertained by going into those different perspectives and the deeper themes. And then both my least favorite and my favorite, which is symbolism and allegory. I actually hate symbolism when it's talked about too much because it is obnoxious often. But villains can serve as allegories for real world issues. I prefer them to not be so on the nose, but like corruption, the struggle between order and chaos, as in like Batman and the Joker, the personification, which I usually don't like either, but you have to mention it if you're talking about this stuff. Villains can be one way that we as authors can explore this stuff and convey our deeper messages about society, about human nature, especially in times when that message can be dangerous to get out, or when it's something that people need, something more complex that people need to understand. And the best example of that I can usually give is with Animal Farm, because that is a really good allegory for communism, for tyranny and fascism, like all put together. And it was a good way to show that even to the littlest of kids without having to go into like all the specific complexities. Even a little kid can understand what's wrong in that story. So yeah, it all contributes to the richness and the depth and the impact on audiences. And I'm sorry if my voice sounds really boring today. I'm sorry in the chat, but I just can't talk very loud. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, everybody wish Ellie to feel better.
I'll stop whining about it. I just wanted to apologize.
No, you're not whining. No worries at all. Well put. Yeah, I have nothing to add to that. Amazing.
Sorry.
Stop apologizing.
But yeah, yeah. I like Whores Are Whores made a good comment, but I lost it now.
Where
did it go? What if the villain has your D-pic asking for a friend? That's a good one. I like it. It's funny.
Interesting question. Dartfield asks, or on the flip side, those seem like they're completely devoid of motivations. Can be interesting as well. I'm
gonna talk about that in a later slide.
Okay.
If you want to hold off on that.
Yeah, let's hold off on that because I do agree a villain doesn't always need to have a strong motivation. But yeah, we can talk about that later. I think the Joker essentially he has a motivation though. It's just not what you would expect. It's not standard. I guess we'll get into it. All right. Moving on.
Oh, I was waiting for you to do it. Jesus.
Oh.
I can't do
yes. It's your screen sharing, Allie. It's your screen. Mike Wilson art says I actually use the D&D alignment system at least at the start. Interesting. So I don't, but I can see. I guess at the beginning, I was tempted to use it because I have a hell of a time figuring out a lot of characters. Not always, but what I realize, for example, when I'm playing Pathfinder, I have a type of character, and it's not too narrow. It's not even just characters that are like myself, but I have a type of character that's easier for me to play, and it's so I think that's just everybody's different. And for character writing, I think for certain types, I have a much easier time, and I have a huge block towards writing certain types of characters that I don't mesh with mentally. So that's a huge challenge that I'm trying to overcome as a writer, because I noticed like this is something that it carries over to tabletop games and also to my writing. But yeah, anyways, but so I was tempted to use the alignment system in Pathfinder and D&D, then I found out it wasn't really that helpful, because that's, again, those are guides, and even in game you would be told like these are guides. There's a generalized alignment, like a character's neutral, a character is chaotic, but at the same time, well, almost every group defines especially evil differently. What is evil in your group? Is it being selfish? Is it not following certain moral codes? But certain characters who think they're good, who think they're doing good and are very fixated on that, they actually end up doing evil. So how do you parse those types of characters? So yeah, it's I kind of gave up on using the D&D alignment system, though I can see how it's useful at the beginning. The end.
I like when you do your thing and you say the end.
The end.
Well, yeah, so as far as motivations go, understanding the motivations of villains in fiction enhances the narrative experience by allowing for more nuanced characters, promoting compassion and comprehension, influencing conflict resolution tactics, addressing themes, and fueling plot development. I gave two pretty easy examples that anyone could probably have given, where Darth Vader desires power and control that stems from his fear of loss and abandonment. Pretty much everybody knows that story. Cersei, is it Cersei? I feel like it is.
Cersei, yeah.
From what I remembered, she's motivated by a desire to preserve her family's history while maintaining her power. But I only saw season 1. So
yeah, I wouldn't say she's that concerned with her family's history, because that would be that's still somewhat selfish, but altruistic to a small extent. Like, I'm concerned for my family. I don't think she is. She's concerned with her family's legacy only because she wants to please her father. And Tywin Lannister fucked up all his kids so bad and they all both hate him and want to be like him. It's like this whole complicated thing. So she, yeah, it's very much she wants to earn the approval of her father, and she wants power for herself, but also she wants a type of power that she's constantly not happy with. Just, she has a lot of power and she's never happy with it. She's like, I want to be a king. I want to have the direct kind of power as a knight. If she had just played to her actual strengths and been smarter, she already had a lot of power and she could have navigated everything. Also, she wasn't such a bitch and didn't kill people left and right and kill a bunch of babies, then she would, be okay. But yeah.
But I'm being yelled at to take care of the dog, so can I be right back? I'm sorry.
No problem. I'll talk to chat.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem at all. King League says hello. Hello, King League. What's up? Just want to stop by before bed and say hi. Thank you. And hit like on the stream. Yes, everyone. If you're watching, hit like. Thank you very much. That'll help a lot. Oh, by the way, I uploaded a new world building video, so I can pull it up in a minute. I like everybody to go check it out. And if you can go give me a view and a like, that would be much appreciated. Down Go Solo is here. Hails and such. Hello, Down Go Solo. Who let the dogs out? Allie has like 2 adorable doggos, but she's got to go take care of them. Hypnotic is here. Hi, what's up? Hello, Hypno. Hypno is awesome. Glad you're here. It's always good to see you in chat. And that's all I had to say about that. I am Forrest Gump, is the conclusion of today's stream. I am actually just female Forrest Gump. I mean, that's pretty fitting. I'm about on that level, you know. I can accept that. At least I'm self-aware. Let me show you guys the video that, hold on. The world building video. I'm super proud of it. I released it early for channel members. So if you guys are a member, you guys have already seen it. But here you go. Why is... need to open it on this end. Yeah, I have a bunch of videos for Fiendish lined up. I have this one is... well, here, like, is it just me talking? But I only have Ispaliad and Dev in this one because I haven't revealed a lot of the other races and species that I created for Fiendish. I haven't revealed yet, so I have so much world building stuff that I haven't revealed. But of course, I can't. I don't want to like spoil things in videos just because I want to do world building stuff before it's actually the information is actually revealed in the comic, right? So so that's also the same reason I haven't done a world building book, even though everybody's asking me to do it. But everyone has been introduced to the Dev and Ispaliad in the books, so I figured I would do an introduction here, and it's essentially the information that's on the website, but I elaborate on a few more things. For example, in this video, I elaborate on what Ramasva are, and it's this concept I hadn't. That's one thing I hadn't elaborated on before, but now I'm just trying to talk about it because I'm like, okay, that needs a name. Essentially, that's a word for all the superpowers that each species have. And in the world of Fiendish, each species has their own superpower. So humans have this elemental magic system. Dev don't have superpowers because they're an anomaly, and that's why they're enslaved. But all the other Cymar types have their own superpowers, and the term for that is called Ramasva. So go watch this video. I explain that and get into a bunch of more nerdy stuff. And I have... let's see, what else do I have? I have a character profile for Ragna scheduled. I have, I'm going to do another video on the world map, so that should be fun. And I have, I have like a video just talking about the website and showing off all the things on the website. So I'm sure you guys are going to love that. What was the other one? Oh, the magic system. Yeah, speaking of the magic system, I have a separate video on just the casting, like the rune casting system. So that's also scheduled. I've been busy, guys. So yeah, there you go. Diago says tiny teas. No. No. I'm good with my spoilers, guys. Maromi says auction tomorrow. Yes. And everyone watching, don't forget that tomorrow I will be auctioning off some art on Red Valkyrie's channel, so that'll be happening at 4 p.m. Eastern. Here, let me post a link to this video first, so everyone go check that out. Go drop me a like, please, if you don't mind. And also, I'll post a link to Red Valkyrie's thingamajig if you guys want some art. I'll be auctioning off, let's see. Whoop. I have like this Tetsuo piece. Full screen. This will be at the auction. And also this. I was thinking of holding off on this, but I need money for Heroes Con. So hopefully, because I've been spending a lot of money preparing for convention, so I'm like, here you go. I've been holding on to this for a while, so this will be up for auction tomorrow. This is a full 11 by 17 cover. This is the permanent cover for Fiendish 2.5. So if you'd like this, be sure to show up on Red Valkyrie stream and place your bids. And help me out if you can afford it. Help me out with my convention fees because I got so many banners and tchotchkes made. I'm poor now. Help! And I'll try to draw like a sexy girl or something before the show as well, because I know that's a bit of a staple of these auctions. I always try to have like a sexy fantasy girl or some shit like that. So don't worry, I'll be working on that tomorrow, and it'll just be a simple thing, but hopefully you guys like it. And thank you for the link, Down Go Solo. You know what? I will I'll go ahead and pin that, because why not? As if you guys don't mind. So everyone can go and check that out and just set a notification for the stream. So that will not be missed.
I'm back.
Hello, you're back. Hold on. I need to
Hi.
unfull screen myself. I was talking about the auction, and so I'm gonna pin Solo's comment for that, and so people know about it, because I need to advertise these auctions more and help out Red Valkyrie. Okay, there you go. When will Yomi get her cover? Chapter 3. There'll be a cover.
You heard it here, folks.
I have 2, so I already have the covers planned out. Because chapter 3 and 4 I split. It was gonna be one book. I split it. So it's so yeah, I need a new permanent cover for 3. Yomi will be on the permanent cover along with a secret character that hasn't been revealed yet. Y'all are gonna love it. Okay.
Stop her, Ali.
Stop her? Stop me from talking about... From what?
Know.
From talking about Fiendish? Oh my gosh! Never!
So, villains that have well-defined motives, I think, are more nuanced and multidimensional. Of course, villains that don't have such motives can seem scarier, because chaos is, the unknown rather, is can be scary. But I don't think that type of character will resonate for very long, as much as one that has a complex and compelling, more than one-dimensional evildoer. Not saying you have to go into detail with their backstory necessarily, because especially lately, I think there might be too much detail in villain backstories as a trend. But knowing their desires and their inner conflicts adds depth and can make them more relatable, which makes it more engaging, and holds a mirror up to the audience. It can humanize them. Not always a good thing, but sometimes I think it is useful. Reprehensible actions can be something that we understand depending on the motivation, which is what I'm talking about. So, where that leads us to where you can have the not simply good, the not simply bad, but individuals shaped by their experiences that lean more good and lean more bad. Therefore, they're more realistic. There we go. What else do I have on there? Let me read through, open it. Did I say conflict resolution? I did. Influencing conflict resolution. So, when a protagonist can negotiate or find redemption to get to that conflict resolution, and it's more than just a physical thing, I think that adds to the narrative. And by that, I mean in stories like Lord of the Rings, where, yes, we have this physical thing that needs to be destroyed, but we also have extra character issues when it comes to, for example, Gollum and Sam. So that adds to the narrative, and it means it has a more satisfying conflict resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, it adds plot development, obviously. So what do they want? Why do they want it? That makes plot twists and character arcs. Theme. I know you focus on theme a lot.
Yeah.
I don't so much. But themes that are popular, like power, revenge, identity, or evil, those can all, because that's a universal theme that everyone can understand, that's a good thing to give to your villain. So, yeah, the end.
Mm-hmm. Well, your villain's motivations is for any character, understanding their motivations is important, but especially for a villain, because probably secondary characters, their motivations can be ambiguous and doesn't break the story, and your protagonist motivations can be basic and it wouldn't and okay and it wouldn't break the story. But I really do think villains' motivations, even if they're simple, it has to be clearly defined, because then your main character and your protagonists and whatever their side is, the point is the story needs to feel like they have a compelling challenge, and the form that challenge takes shape around your villain's motivation. So this is extra important to get it right with your antagonists, and their motivations will shape everything that they do. And you kind of covered this, but I'm just reiterating. So it's specifically, well, how do they go about achieving their goal? So, for example, if a villain wants to take over a country, but for what reason do they want to do that? Do they want to take over this country because they just want power, and they don't? Is it because they want power but they're not trying to? Or is it because they hate the royal family and they want revenge? So it's going to be much more bloody if their motivation is the latter. So, and that understanding will filter through every little thing that they do.
Yeah, exactly.
ASMR. Ali is sick for anybody who's jumping in, but it's they're saying your voice is extra soothing. That's nice.
Oh, gross. I better get unsick fast.
Oh
I
no,
need, I,
Dillard
I need,
is. You
oh,
know, Ali doesn't like compliments. Dillard, hello. He's been gifted a membership. What can I view with this membership? Are there cool videos doing a flip or something? No. Me doing a flip would just be me like breaking my bones or something, like just falling on my face. I upload things early for members, so right now I have some members only streams. Just go to the membership tab. I do have like exclusive member streams, so you can go watch those, but hang around for a few weeks. I have all the videos that I have lined up. I'll release them early for members. So yeah, there you go.
ding. All right. Speaking of which, origins. Creating an adequate history for a villain in your fiction strengthens the narrative experience. By offering, as I wrote here, depth, motivation, consistency, conflict, and potential for character growth. So by diving into the villain's backstory, writers may create more intriguing and complex storylines that connect with readers on a deeper level. The example I gave is one I don't think I've used before, because people have varying feelings on this book series, and for good reasons. But when it comes to Hannibal Lecter, I think that his past as a brilliant psychiatrist turned serial murderer and cannibal is critical to his persona, and learning about his tragic beginnings in Lithuania and the subsequent events did shed light on his complicated personality and motives. And his knowledge, his sophistication, and his twisted morals help make him an intriguing and dangerous enemy, except for in the last book, which I have a problem with. But we don't have to talk about that. Yeah, so but having that backstory adds layers to your character. And I know a lot of people are going to say too much backstory is bad, and I agree, sometimes it is, but when it can make them multidimensional, which makes them more believable, and understanding their past experiences and traumas lets us show the villains as fully fleshed out people that are their own person with their own dreams, and I think that makes them more compelling. And I'm probably going to stress that a lot through this stream, that they're more engaging for a reader when they're more than just a caricature of evil. In my opinion.
I think that's true. It depends on what you have space for, I think. And but even with a short and simple story, there's honestly a lot that you can reveal through, if you're very picky with dialogue and what you show and all the choices of your scenes, you can reveal a lot. Because I'm thinking, well, there are a lot of simple villains, like early Disney films, just golden age Disney films. The villains are simple, but they're compelling, and I think it's because their backstories aren't shown. Like, we don't know the whole backstory of Maleficent, and well, now we do, but let's pretend that those live action movies don't exist. And whoever the fuck the Hun guy in Mulan was, we don't know his backstory, but the way they act like people that have a fully fleshed out backstory, right? So it helps to at least know where these characters come from, so they behave in a believable way. And I think once that's achieved, it almost ruins it to elaborate further on the backstory, which is why everybody hated that. Oh, Maleficent is just like that. You have to humanize her and make her sympathetic. I haven't seen Maleficent. I just heard it's shit, and I'm not interested in delving further.
Well, I actually, if they had only had the part where it shows her being betrayed by her lover, because that's what happens. Her lover betrays her and he cuts her wings off. If they had just had that, I think I would have liked it better. But they went too into it, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you can have just enough backstory to where you're like, okay, I understand why she's angry and hurt and wants revenge, without all the weird lore about like her people and the land she lives in and all that stuff. It didn't need all of that. That one scene was quite intense, and it was quite sad and disturbing. And I liked it up until right after that, when they were like, oh, we're going to just make it all about how she's actually the good guy. Like, I didn't like that, because in Maleficent, they effectively make her not a villain.
Mm.
And they could have kept with her being a villain, but they decided not to. And that was the mistake in Maleficent, in my opinion. It should have been Sleeping Beauty with a little 5-minute, Maleficent origin, maybe. Because I thought that was cool. Like, I was like, wow, that's like tragic. And Angelina Jolie did a really good job doing what she normally does, which is screech, sadly. So it made sense. But not what they did with the rest of it, which just turned out weird. Like, she's the hero in Maleficent. She's not the villain, which
Right.
is why I don't really mention it. It is a good example of how not to do something, though, I think. I don't know, holy hand grenades. It was sad and disturbing, and I like, yes, Diller. I betray myself constantly by revealing my
Oh no,
own motivations.
your
What?
darkness. Joseph
Yeah.
Pantalone asks, will you sacrifice your soul to understand a villain or more? You don't need to sacrifice your soul to understand these things. In fact, having a soul helps you understand, is what
Mm-hmm.
helps you understand other beings, regardless of if they're villainous. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't have if you're soulless and if you're villainous, I think that's where, because that's the lack of empathy is what makes, I think, that soullessness, right? That'll kill your empathy. So
Yeah, if you lack empathy, you're probably not going to empathize with either the hero or the villain. You're going to know that this is supposed to be the bad guy and this is supposed to be the good guy, but you're not going to feel the reason why. So you probably won't be able to get into a story the way that you should. You're not going to be able to have that immersion. And that brings me to another thing I mentioned, which is the consistency and the continuity are very important. Because if you have a well-crafted backstory, even if it's short, even if it's not literally everything, it doesn't have to be literally everything. But as long as it's consistent in the portrayal of the villain, and it doesn't, as in, like in Maleficent, turn them into the hero, but it still establishes that framework of their motivations, their beliefs, and by extension, their personality traits that guides their behavior, guides their decisions. You have to keep consistent with it. And the best way to do that is with your empathy, because it enhances the credibility. And it will prevent those inconsistencies that we're talking about and those contradictions that people don't want, because it's too easy to pick them out. And, even if we are holding up an example of villainy, of evil, and it's easy to see that, people don't want it to be so, in your face. You can have your, I think I say also, conflict and tension. You can have that conflict and tension as layers in relationships without revealing, and without revealing their total backstory. You can still reveal their worldview, which still can show those interpersonal conflicts and moral dilemmas And even when villains have internal struggles where they're the kind of villain that doesn't know for sure and is just kind of trying to do the best they can in their own way, that helps enhance that suspense and the anticipation so the audience can get into it. A big thing I think people confuse when it comes to villains is confusing backstory with character development, and they're not necessarily the same thing. You can have a well-developed character without a super intense backstory. So the character development itself can, the backstory can serve as character development for the villain and for the other characters. So even if it's just a little bit of exposition, explaining the origins of those motivations provides those opportunities. So if Anakin had been done in a way that people liked, there probably would have been much less of an episode 1, because if they had just done like even a quarter of the movie as like little Anakin, I think people would have gotten his origins that had his motivations, because there's really not a lot there. Like, oh, he's a kid who misses his mom and is afraid to lose that, like that's not difficult to have done. They didn't need to make it that whole movie. They could have even done it in flashbacks, honestly, but they did what they did. But either way, that sort of thing is what gives those opportunities for growth, redemption, or damnation. Like Anakin, when he goes back to get his mom, there was a right way and a wrong way to do that. What should he have done? Could he have done anything else? There's a lot of room around that. So, yeah.
Down Go Solo asks, think a well-developed villain can carry a story even with limited screen page time. I'm sure that's possible. A lot of stories are remembered more for their villains than the protagonist. It depends on, someone else commented earlier. It really depends on the story. Like, how much do you reveal about the villain? How much do you elaborate on them and make them sympathetic, but not in a stupid way, like they do a lot of times, which is not making them unvillainized anyways. And does the story rely more on the villain or the main character? It's almost like, which one of those is more interesting and has more spice? Like, do you think of it? And it could work either way. You could have a character that's very standard and righteous and they're still likable and you're still rooting for them because they're fighting for good, but the villain is just so evil and has such an interesting character that their readers and viewers would like the villain but not agree with them. Those are two different things. So,
Yeah.
and I like a lot of those stories.
Who said it a minute ago? Joseph Pantalon said Renfield is a classic character struggling with his soul and his sanity. And yeah, that's a good example, even though he's like a villain's sidekick. I think they did a good job with him in the new movie Renfield, exploring that struggle that he has. So that's a good one. Also, thank you, Holy Hand Grenades. So, was there something else I wanted to say? Oh, never mind. Actually, we're moving on.
Okay. Real quick, thank you for becoming a member, Michael's Asylum. I got that right. Michael's Asylum, thank you. And earlier, Beastman gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much, guys.
Oh, I just followed him on Twitter.
Cool. Oh,
That's funny.
Hello.
I saw someone sharing like a screenshot or something of him, and I looked him up and I followed him. That's funny. Welcome, Michael. Oh, Solo mentioned Magneto. I was going to mention Magneto. Do you try to write your villains likable, give them motivations you can sympathize with? I don't think that a likable villain and motivations you can sympathize with necessarily go together. You can hate a villain and still understand their motivations. I think.
Right. It's finding a character compelling doesn't mean agreeing with them or liking them.
Yeah. So, morally gray characters, I think, is a good stepping stone to go into. I thought someone would have brought them up so that I could push it in naturally, because that usually happens. But
Allie, what about morally gray characters? What about anti-villains and anti-heroes? How do we write that?
Thank you, Renie.
I'm trying. I suck. I'm sorry.
No, you're such a good friend. You're like, Allie's sick. I'll try and help out so she doesn't feel like a failure.
I'm trying. I mean, you made the whole presentation. Okay.
So, morally gray characters. They blur the traditional lines between good and evil, obviously. As you mentioned, anti-heroes. They show a complex mix, usually, of virtues and vices, but they possess redeeming qualities. So they can have understandable motives. Say, the Punisher or Blade even. You could say he's morally gray because he's still killing, technically, even though he's killing villains. Where do you draw the line? So for the reader, what morally gray characters do is they challenge perceptions and they reflect on those ethical and moral quandaries, and they teach reasoning. I'll give examples in Animorphs every single video until the day I die.
Here we go. Animorphs, yay!
Yay. No, I'm the only one who's ever read Animorphs in the world, it feels like. But
okay.
So there are so many characters in Animorphs that do this very same thing. They teach reasoning in wartime and what are acceptable sacrifices. Who is it okay to sacrifice? How many and when? In stressful wartime situations. And I really do think that it's the best children's series ever written because it easily explores so many really dark quandaries. Even when it comes to genocide and stuff, like, can it be okay sometimes? What would be a reason to make that okay? And that's dangerous and people don't want to touch it, but Animorphs just lays it all on the table, like, no, it's okay if it's if you're targeting parasites that are going to take over the rest of the universe, it's okay to commit genocide on another peaceful race if that's what we're doing. Like, it's very interesting, and I think you could use Animorphs to teach a masterclass. I really do. I can't speak highly enough of it. But
Interesting. Wish I read that. I did read Goosebumps. I love Goosebumps. I think I read like one Animorphs book, but yeah, carry on. Ender says
Goosebumps.
he agrees with your above statement.
Who? Oh,
Ender.
good. Thank you.
Actually, I don't know if he does. I don't think he does. He changed his mind. Thank you, some person.
Fuck you then. I don't know.
No, I'm talking about Ender from Ender's Game.
Oh, about Ender. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were reading the chat. No. I was looking at my slide.
It's okay. It's okay. Someone brought. You okay?
No.
Okay.
On.
All right. No, I lost the chat, but Down Goes brought a Magneto, which is a interesting. I think Magneto and even so. Okay, everybody take a shot because Ali has brought up Animorphs. I'm about to bring up Berserk. Griffith is a very hateable but very, very well fleshed out villain. Like it's very clear what his motivations are. It's hammered in so clearly, and it's also very simple. He wants his own kingdom, and he will pay whatever price is necessary to get that. And it's his lifelong dream. And he was pushed. Yes, he's a psycho. Yes, he's basically a charming psychopath who would have sacrificed tons of people to get his dream, but he didn't set out wanting to do that. He was pushed to do that because he had no recourse. He had lost everything, and he was at the end of his ropes. He was crippled completely. He lost all the titles and honor and glory that he had gained. He totally fucked himself over. He was just nothing. He had fallen to be nothing, and the only recourse for getting his dream was to sacrifice all his friends. And he did it because he had a fucking dream. And he's fucking hateable because of the shit he did, but it's also super clearly defined. And I love characters like that. And well, is Griffith morally gray? I wouldn't think so, but that's a good example of a I hate the term sympathetic villain because sympathetic implies, well, you understand or could agree with them, and I don't think that's what people usually are trying to describe, but compelling and understandable is a better word. There you go. And I think Magneto is similar, but on a lesser scale, right? Because he's even more understandable, and he makes arguments where, well, sometimes it sounds like from his point of view, he's not doing it selfishly. For example, Griffith is 100% selfish all along, but understandable. Magneto thinks he's working for the greater good of mutants. There you go. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Magneto has logical reasons. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm watching X-Men 97, and it's the only X-Men that I've seen aside from the first 3 movies and Logan. But I definitely do understand his motivations, despite his actions being technically morally reprehensible for the most part.
I need to watch that. Everybody's raving about it. I'm so glad to see that people like it, though. I feel like media is turning around. Fingers crossed.
I don't hate it. The thing I don't like about it is the animation. I think by trying to look like the 90s cartoon without doing the work that of 90s animation, the work that it took, they made it look strange. It ends up looking kind of like Flash. So I'm not a super big fan of the animation. And for like the first 6 episodes or something, Magneto looks super gay. But like his costume sucks. I understand it's in the comics, but it's like the gayest fucking thing I've ever seen. I laughed out loud. I was like, the fuck is he wearing?
It's
But
an
that
homage to the
changes.
90s. Oh.
Well, I understand it's accurate, but and I've never read a single X-Men comic, but as someone who's just new to it, he looks fucking gay. So
A lot of superhero costumes look kind of stupid, though. That's just
not like
culture.
that.
No,
He looks
I'm
cool.
agreeing with you. I don't even know which one you're talking about that was in the show, but a lot of superhero costumes just don't look fantastic.
He looks cool now though. Like I
Okay.
think last night or the night, not last night, but the last episode or the one before it, he changed outfits and he looks like a badass now. So
Cool.
um
Well, for 199, have Yins heard of Dr. Rudolph van Richten? Richten?
Andy.
Richten. No,
That's
I haven't.
what kind of pronoun is yins? Stop. I don't like that.
No, it's like a y'all thing. Yins. It's like a
Yeah,
regional accent thing.
I hate it. Whatever it is.
Have y'all heard of Yins, chat?
No. And now I want to just kill everyone. So that's great.
Oh no, what have I done? No, sorry, I haven't heard of that wolf word, but thank you for the super chat.
Yeah. So their goals of morally gray characters can be noble but pursued through questionable means, or vice versa. They can be questionable but pursued through noble means. And there are some Batman villains who have done that. Or, yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. But their goals create nuance, which is kind of what you want.
Right.
My example is obvious, but he's amazing. Severus Snape, my boy. Tragic boy. Plagued by guilt, lost love, and a sordid past. He is antagonist to Harry and friends. As MC Frontalot said, he kills Dumbledore, but with a noble motive. And his sacrifice in the end revealed a life of protecting from evil. So Snape is the real hero of Harry Potter at the end.
There you go. I agree. Snape is very, very well written. The characters are, I mean, generally, there are a lot of really spunky characters, but yeah, Snape is a. Did you say he's so hot? Ellie has the hots for Snape, guys. No, it's
Snape
very,
is
very well written, and I heard somewhere that's which makes sense, where if you're whatever resolution, like when a character arc comes to a close, whether or not that's like a character death, that event should be a reframing of everything that their arc has been building up to. Not just, oh, it's a conclusion. That's good, but that's not that does not a memorable story make. And Snape's conclusion did reframe everything that he's done.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant.
It was a lifetime of him trying to harden Harry up and him being afraid of what could happen, and him trying to hide help Harry hide and stuff. Like, even though Harry, in retrospect, was a little bastard, like a not very
Ew.
talented little asshole. Like, he was what? Nah, Snape is awesome, and that's the only time I cry in that series.
Aw.
Is every time when Harry looks into the pensieve and he sees like all of Snape's life. I'm just like, fucking bullies. Like,
Aw.
so
And
stupid.
one of them was yo dad. Come a long way to
Man.
assholery, Harry. Harry, you're an
Yeah,
asshole.
Harry. You're an
Dillard.
asshole, Harry.
See you later. See yins later. Thanks for joining. Allie's triggered. I'm sorry.
I am triggered. HXC triggered.
Oh no.
Harry didn't even practice magic for his battle. He just moped. He did some practice. He did. It
He was the
as it gets
chosen
closer. Well, as it gets closer to the end, they all the kids kind of start practicing and stuff. So they do.
He practiced. He was a little bit less of a twat at the end, but the chosen oneness did really get to him. It was very annoying at first.
Like I
Anyways.
definitely understand why Snape is always like, Potter.
You know, it's funny. I didn't realize that as a kid reading it because you don't really understand or pick up on those things. And I'm like, oh, I'm on the protagonist side. And looking back, it was a very annoying kid.
And it's like, of course, Harry's not going to know a lot of the stuff that the other magic kids are going to know. But Snape has been living this hell for decades where he's constantly like alert, you know, and hiding his every emotion and thought from everyone like incessantly. So I get it. He's like, Harry, you little fuck, do not ruin my lifetime of discipline and suffering. Like, I definitely get it. I'm just like, yeah, Potter. Like,
Hello, Mr. Toxicity. I realize in retrospect that the amount of times Harry won just because Dumbledore gave him like hero points was ridiculous. I got just subconsciously tired of it at the end.
Well, he admits it. He does say like most of the time when I won it was because of luck. Like,
yeah,
or someone else threw me something. Like, everyone knows that I'm adequate at best. Like,
yeah.
and him admitting that really helped me like him a little more.
Yeah.
He
got
doesn't
better
think he's
towards
the
the
shit. If he had been braggart, I don't think anyone could say that he was good either. And yes, holy hand grenades. That is catharsis. Yeah, delicious.
Sounds like I'm gonna tell the story of my math teacher who would tell us to jump out the window. So conclusion: good teachers either lightly harm you or tell you to harm yourself, but in a joking way. Joking. Don't die.
I won't die. I don't think. All right, so I think we could move on.
Okay.
Is there anything else that I had to say?
I don't know.
Nope. Okay. Just that they morally gray characters are contributing to the nuance, and that's good. You should have some of those. All right. Antagonistic forces. So, conflict is essential and constructing a villain. Otherwise, how could you have a villain?
Do you want me to read it? You've been reading this whole thing.
Please.
Okay. Yeah, I should have done that earlier. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah. Conflict is essential in constructing a villain for fiction since it provides context and drives their actions and goals. Through the conflict villains provide, we get origins and catalysts, protagonists, oppositions, characters, developments, exploration of themes, and audience engagement. Yeah. Example, Sauron from Lord of the Rings. He is the personification of pure evil, and his malicious presence propels the story's every conflict. And I was just thinking of Sauron earlier when we were talking about villains' backstories, because I was thinking, well, Tolkien's antagonists and Sauron is archetypal evil, right? But even though he is writing archetypal evil, Sauron had a backstory, which I don't think was elaborated on much in Lord of the Rings because it wasn't necessary. But when you read the rest of Tolkien's works, Sauron has, like, he walks us through Sauron's entire journey. He had this journey of deception, of staying hidden, of manipulating people from behind the scenes, and manipulating his way to power. And that was so, just because a character's motivations are very simple and as he's evil for evil's sake doesn't mean they can't be compelling and interesting, because I found the characters like Sauron, they're interesting because of the way that they go about their goals. It was very it was interesting to see what he did, and the sort of, a character can have simple motivations but be entertaining in their execution of that motivation. The specific way their actions are, their goals are carried out could be the entertainment, not just like what they want doesn't have to be special. It's how they do it, is what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And as when it comes to Sauron, as ultimate or as true evil, he appeared to the elves as something of beauty, one of them, not as some, like, hideous random dude. Looking at you, rings of power plus privilege.
He was an elf, not some hunk. And how would Galadriel have not noticed it? She was the one who noticed. Don't remind me.
Yeah, it's okay.
How could she have not known it was him?
Because it wasn't really Galadriel, that's how.
It wasn't her. None of the characters were right. I had a friend who's like not, a nerd about Lord of the Rings, and he's like, "Oh, but yeah, she's different than the Jackson movies, but I think this is interesting. I want to see how she gets to that point in the Jackson movies from this character that's so different." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. It's not just that the character is different. It's like the development itself doesn't make sense, and it's written." Tolkien wrote what she was like at this time in her life, and also she's already like a couple thousand years old, so she's not like 20. Like, she has no excuse for acting this immature, and also her abilities are completely inconsistent. Like, how could she have not known that was Sauron standing right in front of her? I'm gonna stop. That's how you don't do a villain.
Well, and all the elves in that show are so ugly.
No, actually, that is how you do a villain, because Galadriel was the villain in Rings of Power. She straight up was the antagonist. She was a giant bitch the whole time.
That's true. She was. Even in the, like, one scene where they attempted to make her, like, nice and pretty, it's just like, I still hate you. I hope you drown in the ocean.
No, she's a giant bitch. She fit that example of a fair exterior, but an evil, selfish heart that just wanted power more than anything. Except she didn't have that deceptive, pleasing mannerisms that Anatar would have had. She was like Anatar, but even dumber, because she wasn't even deceptive. She was just like screaming at everybody, and somehow everybody gave her what she wanted. It was like, "Oh my god, you're so awesome." Absolutely horrible. Wasting
Yeah.
money.
Thus, Rings of Power plus privilege.
Not a hot take. I know it's not a hot take. I'm just like very annoyed by that show.
Well, going back to my little slide there.
Yes.
You're fine. So conflict serves as the catalyst for characters becoming a villain. Personal trauma, societal injustice. So when it comes to that Galadriel, as a child, she's like bullied, even though elf children wouldn't bully.
No.
They've given her conflict that creates a villain. We didn't need that. She didn't need that. So that's a way to do it wrong. or right. She's not a good villain, but they made a villain instead of a hero. Because those are the that's what creates the circumstances that push a character toward those darker paths, where they'll embrace villainy, even if they've come to it on accident, as a way to resolve their grievances. So where she's fighting with her brethren, like, that would be a villainous thing that elves would not do. And also, I've got, hold on. Protagonists opposition. Basically, there has to be a clash of goals or values or interests between the hero or heroes and villain or villains that drives the narrative forward, because that's what creates tension and suspense, drama, and if the conflict is more formidable, then the challenge the hero has to overcome is greater. It's more engaging and compelling to a reader, which leads me to saying how in character development, it not only shapes the hero's character development, but it shapes the villain's character development, because they're confronting all of their beliefs. In the case of heroes, a lot of times their limitations, and then for villains, oppositionally, it has them confront their vulnerabilities, their flaws, their we're talking about morally gray, their moral, I wanted to say grayness, but I mean ambiguity, that deepens all of that, and adds complexity. So they get tested, they get transformed, and they're driven to make all those choices that define the narrative. And all of that, whatever the struggle is, whatever the consequences are, that will grip the audience, that will engage your audience. So even whether it's a battle that's small or epic, or warfare that's physical or psychological, it's going to heighten everything for the villain, and create emotional responses. And that's what you want in a story. You want your reader to feel the emotional response, because then it's going to hook inside them and they'll remember it. And what we're striving for as writers is that longevity, through victory or defeat, that will shape the experiences of the audience through the hero or the villain. And one of the best illustrations of that is through the Never-Ending Story, where it's quite obvious what happened. Like, they basically just tell you that that's what you do, and how it works. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hope I'm not being boring with my voice, but I just don't want to hurt my throat.
No, it's fine. I think it's you sound fine. Yeah, I was thinking of another really good example of antagonistic forces. So I've talked a lot about the major characters in Berserk, but take another shot. I know, but the apostles have very interesting. They have very the antagonistic forces that they create, because the story of Berserk is about Griffith and Guts, but the apostles are the antagonistic force that emanates from Griffith. Griffith becomes part of them, then becomes essentially their most powerful, or one of the God Hand, but the most prominent and visible God Hand, and he's the most powerful of the apostles. So the apostles are almost like his tentacles out in the world. And tying back to villain motivation, the apostles are very interesting because in Berserk, the way these evil characters who have a lot of power, they essentially, apostles are characters who have made a great sacrifice. They have to sacrifice something they love for and sell their soul. Their souls are doomed, but in return they get the superpowers. They get what they want. They get their wish, and a lot of them have like this monstrous form that they can turn into. So, and what they're all their a lot of their backstories are super interesting, because what will drive a person to be willing to make that sacrifice? Because the point is, it's not just you have to sacrifice a bunch of people that you don't care about. You have to sacrifice the thing that you love the most and doom your soul, and then you'll get ultimate power. So that is honestly such a good setup. And the antagonistic forces in Berserk are all stemming from these characters that have made that sacrifice, that have been driven to that point. And that lends to this permeating feeling in the comic of there's just no way to win. How are the main characters going to win against that level of embracing evil and people that have been so desperate they have nothing to lose. They've done the ultimate, they've given the ultimate sacrifice, so they're capable of anything, right? So yeah, and I think that's why the comic works so well. And all the things on here, ties into that. The themes, all the character developments of the main characters are driven by the antagonistic forces that surround them. And obviously, Berserk is very well loved, so that's where the engagement comes from. Hell, the lore, one of the best stories ever, and hell yeah, it's really fucking brilliant. I mean, I have issues with some small things, but like, come on, that's me as a reader being like, oh my god, this masterpiece isn't perfect. Like, I fucking love it. Even though I don't like Casca, but it's better than anything I could ever write. So,
Aww. She says,
I'm
and
being
lies.
I'm being realistic. One must be.
All right.
Berserk, everyone.
Moving along to something I almost forgot to include, which is dumb because it's the name of the show.
Oh,
World
yeah.
building using villainy.
Ooh, you want me to read it? Let me read it. I'll help you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. World building using villainy reveals power structure. Actions and relationships with other characters may highlight elements of politics, economics, and social dynamics, offering insight into how the world works and who holds power. Right. I guess that is more how you must say it. An example of that would be a villainous character navigating through society and manipulating their way through society. How susceptible is a government structure or an institution to their manipulations would reveal world building, right?
Mm-hmm. So
Um,
when a villain occupies a position of authority or influence within the world, that can allow authors to reveal the power structures and the hierarchies. And by those actions and interactions, it illuminates everything from politics to economics, social dynamics. Like, think about the most evil politician that you can. I'm sure you can think of somebody that you think is a villain in that area. And that's some are more evil than others. And that can be a good way to tell. So, and it shows who holds power as well. So, like I said, I only saw season 1 and I didn't read the books, but Cersei and her brother, right? She's doing her brother.
yeah.
They could be said to completely embody the corruption of power in Westerfold or whatever the fuck it's called.
Westeros.
Okay.
It's okay.
Oh, I was confused. I was the Westfold. God, I am sick.
It's okay. You're not a song fan. Sorry,
No.
I'm the Martin fan.
Yeah, but I'm trying to branch out. There's schemes and weird sex and machinations. Expose all of that political intrigue and power struggles. You could say even, and I hate symbolism, but you could say even that jerk pushing that little kid out is like a symbol of attacking the future with their degeneracy. And that constant power struggle that Westeros is in shapes the whole kingdom's governance and their whole society. That's the idea, right?
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
Yeah, and a song is just full of symbolism and I guess there is allegory. It's pretty obvious, but it's done in a very smart way, so I can get why sometimes symbolism can be misused and it would be irritating, but I think it's done quite well in the book series. Yeah, everything about, because the books are about power structures, everything is about politics, whether it's the power structure in King's Landing or at the Wall. Everything is about power play. The characters are constantly being revealed by the power structures they have to navigate. Even the characters who don't want anything to do with politics and all that stuff, like Brienne of Tarth, they're forced to be involved in some way, and they have to make a stand of like, I don't want to be involved, but I have to make a stand of not being involved or thinking this is all stupid. So it's just, I feel like that's real life. So, yeah. Good example. I will continue.
Yeah.
Villainy shapes context. Authors may add depth and complexity to global history by looking into the beginnings of wicked individuals and the events that impacted their ascent to power.
Yeah, so when a villain has a tie to the history and the lore of the fictional world, that gives us as authors the opportunity to delve into their backstory and show their mythology. Um, and my best example that I could think of for that was the White Witch from the Chronicles of Narnia. I mean, aside from Sauron, which we've already gone over, the White Witch is there from the very beginning of the whole story. If you've read the whole thing, she was a giantess who was a powerful sorceress, known as Jadis in her kingdom, which is in ruins, and she jumps into our world following some children in what is the actual first book, which is not Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's actually the magician's nephew. And when she jumps, and she actually creates quite a bit of chaos here in the real world, or our world rather. But when they first head to Narnia, it's before Narnia is even a place. They enter a void and they witness the creation of the world of Narnia itself through the song of Aslan the lion. And he's created this beautiful, infant world. And the first, before it's even done being created, these children have accidentally brought in this force of power and malevolence that shapes what happens for the entire rest of the series, even when she has been been finally defeated. For a long time, obviously, she holds Narnia in an eternal winter. She has a reign of absolute terror that is very obvious for a child to understand, where it's like, oh, between winter and spring, between darkness and light, between warmth and cold, it creates a struggle to overthrow her and restore that balance, which ultimately is, I guess, spoilers, never fully restored, but it forms the entire central conflict of the whole series and drives the four main protagonists and all of their protagonist friends from beginning to end for the liberation of Narnia and for the redemption of many of its characters. So yeah, that was my best thing for that.
Makes sense. Yeah, I haven't read Narnia, so I will just say yes.
I'll just say yes.
I will just say yes. That sounded correct, and I should read Narnia. The inception of the world is very similar to Tolkien's world, isn't it? That whole concept of it being corrupted. That was interesting.
Yes, it's just much more simplified.
Yeah.
And where Lewis was very embracing of allegory and symbolism. Tolkien, not so much.
Yeah, though I think it's unavoidable because you can interpret his works symbolically in certain ways.
Yeah, but if you had read it, if you do ever read it, it's pretty obvious that one embraces it wholeheartedly and the other one does not.
Right, yeah.
He's
Okay.
not going out of his way. Tolkien is not going out of his way to create real world allegories and real world symbolism.
Right.
He's very focused on his story and his world. Whereas Lewis kind of
I guess it's more on the nose.
I'm trying to think of the world. Yeah, it's more obvious. In like every book, but some of them more than others. But it's pretty fairly obvious, and that's partially because it's more for kids. I'm not sure he ever said it was, but it's more for kids than Lord of the Rings is. Not that Lord of the Rings is not accessible, but Narnia is more accessible for a child.
It sounds like it, from what I know.
Yeah.
About.
And it has very obvious lessons that you learn very quickly. Whereas for something like Lord of the Rings, you need to wait. You need to journey with all these characters to see what you're supposed to, or what you end up anyway learning through the story. And even if it's through like a one-shot line that one of the characters gives, or in the case of Sam, if he's giving like a little speech, it's still, you're not going to get it out of context, I guess. Like, you have to take that journey with them, I think.
I can see that.
Sorry, my throat was dry.
Okay. I will read the next point. Villainy showcases culture by juxtaposing the villain's acts with societal expectations. I like this one. Writers can shed light on the moral and ethical intricacies of the world and its people. Right. World building, and I try to do this as much as possible. Sometimes it's unavoidable to have little exposition, but you need to do it in a way that's still believable. It doesn't break immersion. I hate in specifically comics, just text box narration dumps of world building. Like that is just a thing that I fucking hate. And I know a lot of really great comics do it. It's a pet peeve of mine because it's easy. It takes a little extra work, but it's really not that hard. Find a character that needs all these exposition explained to them, and put it in a scene and use the exposition as a device to reveal character. So which ties into what is here, what we're talking about here, how the same can be done with villains and societal expectations. I can't really think of any examples off the top of my head, but I'm sure you have some prepared.
I usually do.
Go.
That's what happens when you just read friggin' everything. I could probably come up with some examples from the side of shampoo bottles, to be honest.
Your superpower.
Lamest superpower ever. I did actually think of a couple examples. I'll go with one most people will know that's fairly topical. 1984 by George Orwell has Big Brother. the oppressive, ruling force. A symbol of obviously totalitarianism. It's a dystopia, so that's going to be the case. And that force is omnipresent and pervades through every single aspect of their society and culture, just even down to having sex or having kids or what stores they go into, if they go on picnics, their education, everything. And that constant threat of that surveillance, too, creates an atmosphere of fear and paranoia that makes moments that alleviate that even more special, but also on a juxtaposition more frightening because of what they imply, that threat. So it drives the protagonist, whose name I can't remember for some reason. It drives his rebellion through showcasing that culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had thought of another one.
I have
I
one.
mentioned. Oh, okay.
I managed to think of something. My brain worked for once. So I think a really good example of culture revealing character in the case of villain is Daenerys in Slaver's Bay, and her whole development. So in the books, the fact that she's going to turn out to be a bit of a mad targ, and well, not a bit, very much, and she's gonna flip, is foreshadowed much better than in the shows. Like, you see that progression, that little tinge of Targaryen crazy coming in much earlier on. And yeah, so it's very interesting because she thinks she's trying to do good, but she keeps on honestly just fucking shit up. And in Slaver's Bay, she wants to do good. She wants to free the slaves, but makes it's she inserts herself in a very complex situation, wanting to help, and instead kind of just fucks up the economy of the entire region and uproots all the existing power structures, but doesn't replace it with something functional, and just causes pure chaos, is kind of what happens in Slaver's Bay. So that juxtaposition of it's very complex, but the society itself is not, we in our current world obviously is not morally justifiable, but also Danny's solution is not sufficient, is kind of the situation that she enters in Slaver's Bay. And as she's dealing with this whole clusterfuck, especially her darker side comes out sometimes. For example, she is in denial that her dragons are escaping and killing people, and she eventually does lock them up, but there's this denial. So her dragons are the one thing where she cannot face that this is happening and this is an actual problem. um so yeah, it's I really like that section in the books. It's kind of annoying that, you know, it's like we want her to move forward and go back to Westeros already, but yeah, I think that is a very good um example of culture bringing a villain's character to the forth. A lot of characters in song are like that. Holy Hand Grenade says, "Look alive." Right? Why are you saying me look alive? What are you talking about? Ellie's the one who's sick. I look very, very alive.
I haven't fed in a while. I'm not a vampire. That's dumb.
I am dieting. Another example I think would be um There's so many good examples in song. Cersei would be a good example here because she is constantly mad that she lives in a patriarchal society, and instead of working with it in a smart way like Catelyn does, she she's very very bitter about it, and she ends up doing shitty things for uh for a understandable, I would say, frustration in context. She lets it. She lets that culture turn her into being even more of a bitch. There you go.
Are we in culture or context?
Culture.
Okay. Whoops.
Oh no, Darth
That's
Alley.
That's the second time that I did that. My toe touches the thing and it like turns it off.
No problem. Eliza Blue in the chat. No, I won't draw your profile pic, but thank you for asking. I can. I would prefer not to. Thank you. Sir Andrew, thank you for saying that we look alive.
So, culture. Another one I wanted to give because I really love Ursula K. Le Guin's books. Are mostly like young adult and middle grade, but they introduce a lot of really advanced concepts, and they're very unique in science fiction. And in The Left Hand of Darkness, which is one of her books that's not as often talked about as, say, like The Wind in the Door, the main antagonist, and people are going to roll their eyes, but this was before like modern woke politics and stuff. Basically, the main character, she challenges the gender norms of her planet. And stay with me. The individuals on her planet are androgynous, and they only assume male or female roles during their periods where they're having sex. And her defying that highlighted the societal expectations and the limitations that were placed on the individuals. And that goes to, I forget who, somebody in the chat a minute ago said, like, can the theme be the villain? And that goes toward that, like, can the theme be villainous? And in this world, that incessant expectation and enforcement of androgyny itself was the villain. And I think modern readers would do well to read that book, given, not to go into politics, but it is part of our culture now. And in a sense, that is a villainous part of our culture, is this push toward androgyny. And by extension, that is maybe inadvertently, but nevertheless it's happening, enforcing ugliness. And that's a very scary, villainous concept. So that's a good example of that, and I definitely recommend it for the kind of book where there's no, pure I mean, there is, but like where there's not necessarily a true antagonist that is a physical embodiment. There's a whole culture that is in itself the villain. So I would check that out for sure.
Well, shall I move to the last point?
Mm-hmm.
Conflict zones. Villainy introduces conflict zones, creating conflict zones inside the world where the forces of good and evil fight allows for exploration and adventure. These conflict zones might vary between physical and intellectual battlegrounds. I like that
Yeah.
concept of conflict zones, right? Because it's not just the way I've been phrasing it is like the protagonist group against the antagonist group, but it's not even that simple because you have usually in a story you have characters in a gray area and people in between and all kinds of stuff, and then there's a gradient with even within each group. So um, that's I like this phrasing as a description of storytelling technique.
Yeah, and it's pretty much every book has their conflict zones. So if we're talking about Chronicles of Narnia, we have the White Witch's Reign of Terror, but we also have the Pevensey children that they're fighting their own internal battle among each other in their own conflict zone. Or in Lord of the Rings, you've got a lot of different conflict zones that anyone who's read the books or watched the movies could easily point out. Oh, you're over here at Helm's Deep. Oh, you're over here, even in Hobbiton, where it's like, what's the conflict they're mostly dealing with? Well, usually it's gossip, or like, oh, that hobbit is too worldly, like he's too curious. Like each of these it creates a whole world of conflict as opposed to just a very elementary conflict that is more down to children's stories. Some of which can have more, like The Little Prince is a children's story, but it has conflict zones, but they're in a row, if that makes sense. Like they happen chronologically, as opposed to all at once. And having things that are all happening all at once is going to improve engagement. And that's because, think about it, in your life, is there ever just one conflict going on? Like usually, or is it usually a bunch of little conflicts and maybe one or two big ones, and you kind of have to deal with all of them at once, and prioritize and compartmentalize. And that is one of the best functions of literature, is that it teaches people through villainy and heroism. It teaches people how to cope and deal with their real life through escapism. It's quite brilliant, and that's why it's so powerful. And that's why I think that no matter what it is, people should read everything all the time. Like, just read everything. It'll make you a better person, and it'll make you a better writer. I'm assuming most of the people watching are here because they want to write. Um, it'll make you a better writer to find the conflict zones within your life, and then pick out the ones in whatever you're reading and push them throughout whatever you're writing. So yeah.
Really, hand grenades was telling me to come closer, so I did. Yeah, I wish I had time to read more, but you're correct. Writers should read, and that's why audiobooks are my new love. Um, I was thinking, what conflict zones does. Well, you were mentioning about having everything happen all at once. That's almost having, from what I've seen, really engaging stories have nested conflict zones almost. So you have an
Mm-hmm.
overall conflict, but even within each group of general conflict zones, the characters because every character has a different dynamic with every other character, that creates mini nested conflict zones within the larger situation. And Full Metal Alchemist was really good at this. There were just levels and levels of conflicts, and in the end, there was a lot of FMA is very, very well written, and it's a complete story. It's like it's almost not shonen. If it didn't have the slapstick like shonen-y goofy humor, it wouldn't be shonen anymore because it gets quite dark. But the plotting and the themes are all very mature, and the conflict zones are nested in that sense, where a lot of the characters that are on the same side in the ultimate conflict, they started out hating each other and they still hate each other, but they make alliances because there's a greater evil to fight, or some of them don't even care about that. They make alliances because that's beneficial to them, and it's a whole network of alliances and conflict zones that comes to forth in the end game of the comic. I've been revisiting FMA, so that's fresh in my mind. Though some I think in some anime and manga, because anime and manga are more prone to slice of life stories, which I don't particularly like. And the fact that slice of life stories is the idea that slice of life stories just have nothing happening is a misnomer. It's just the stories are built more on surprises and reveals rather than conflict. So I can see how that would still be engaging, but it's more relaxing. It's not, oh my god, there's like we have to fight something. But that takes a lot of skill as well. But I was thinking of Mushishi, which I do really like, and it's not quite slice of life, but it's borderline that. And the conflict is very low level because there is no antagonistic force that actively wants to destroy anyone. It's just nature is there. We don't understand it, so we have to manage nature. Even though the consequences of that nature, the mushi in Mushishi, can be quite devastating, but the mushi themselves don't mean evil, and that's said over and over again in the story. But Mushishi is very engaging just because of how creative the world building is and how the problems and how the type of mushi are presented each time. It's surprising. It's the surprise that keeps you reading. But tying it into conflict zones, that's a very serialized conflict zone because it's very episodic. You can almost read the manga and anime not in order because it's every episode is one contained story. They deal with one mushi problem, and then Ginkgo moves on to something else. So that can work, but it's sort of I think you have to establish that is your conflict structure and commit to it and not shift from it. It's like that contract with the reader that you make at the beginning, you establish and you don't break, that we talk about in a creative block, right?
Yeah. And Liza Blah. No, I haven't seen that.
I've seen that, yeah.
Wow, there's an American movie that you've seen that I haven't.
Shocking, I know. Oh my
It's
God.
the end of the world.
I'm actually shocked, yes.
All right, moving on. Yeah, so the impact of villainy on protagonists. Yeah, so yeah, the influence of villains on protagonist growth is varied and dynamic. It influences, you can tell I made this one today because I used those words too much. The narrative's course and character progression in significant ways. Villains challenge protagonists' views, morals, and determination, forcing them to develop, adapt, and eventually prevail against adversity, resulting in, hopefully, fascinating transformation and self-discovery arcs. What do I mean by that? So. Conflict resolution and growth. What are you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, I just hit my knee. I'm good. I'm fine.
Okay. Conflict resolution and growth. Basically, the challenges that are posed by the villains usually force the protagonist to confront their fears and their weaknesses, their limitations, which, like I said, creates growth. And then as the protagonists are trying to overcome the villain's obstacles, that's when they undergo these significant transformations that lead to more power, more resilience, maturity, self-awareness, which is not common these days.
No.
Yeah. I forget where I was going with that, but yeah. Did I say maturity? I think I did. Yeah. So that's one of the ways that protagonists impact their, or antagonists impact protagonists. Excuse me. But then there's also moral and ethical dilemmas. I can go back to Animorphs again. It forces the protagonist to deal with those questions of right and wrong, of with superheroes, of justice, or even with my book, The Rotting Crown, with justice and vengeance and the greater good, and sacrifice. Like in The Rotting Crown, in order for them to practice magic, they have to sacrifice. So to fight the villain, they have to start with that sacrifice. So they're immediately lacking in that self-interest. So those moral dilemmas push protagonists to make those difficult choices, which in turn shapes their values and their identities as heroes or fallen heroes, what have you. Thoughts on that at all?
I'm trying to think of I'm brain farting because it's been a long day as well. And chat keeps pointing out what time it is and that we look tired. I've been chugging coffee.
Done.
Yeah, no.
Done.
I'm not tired. I've just like been doing a lot of work. So I'm like physically not tired, but my brain is just not fucking here. I think the point of a villain is to reveal a protagonist character and push them. It's almost like, well, ideally, I think if you're going to have a villain, they're there to test the protagonist, and their role is to push your protagonist to see how far they're going to go. So that's the impact. And whether or not the story is in the Greek sense, tragedy or comedy, a success or a failure for the protagonist depends on how they react to that and to the antagonistic force.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I had a coughing fit. I hope I muted it.
You did.
Okay.
It's good. We don't have to elaborate on this. I feel bad because you're sick.
No, you're fine. I want to. You're fine.
Okay. You want me to read the rest of it?
Sure.
All right. Conflict resolution and growth. Protagonists' struggles lead to enhanced self-awareness, resilience, and maturity. Ideally, it depends on the story and genre. I think you can have like stories like Forrest Gump or comedies where the protagonist solves problems but they're not self-aware, but there's always exceptions to the rule. Moral and ethical dilemmas. Moral quandaries force characters to clarify their ideals, yes, make tough decisions, and establish themselves correct. Redemption and forgiveness. Redemption arcs affect growth via acts of remorse, self-sacrifice, or reconciliation. Yep. There's a lot of that in Game of Thrones as well. That's Jaime's entire arc, except apparently he's going to fail in the end, which I'm not looking forward to have to read in the books. Don't like that, but oh well, it is what it is. What did I expect? George R. Martin likes to subvert everything. Motivation and purpose provides them a feeling of purpose and direction in the face of hardship. Yep. These are all important things that villains can provide.
Yeah. It's multifaceted, and if you do it right, it should be dynamic. As in, it can't just, they're one thing right now, and the next page they're another thing. When it's dynamic and gradual is when it works best. So it shows the evolution of the characters. And yeah, just by challenging these beliefs and values and their resolve, villains are good for protagonists in a way because it helps them grow and adapt and triumph and save lands, save people. And it just, in general, creates those compelling arcs that people enjoy. So, yeah, moving on. I made a list here of some really quick tips for villainy that I think will be helpful.
I like the little jars.
I know. They're poison jars.
They're so cute.
With their spooky, like, obviously this is poison thingies.
Great.
Yeah, so basically any motivation can be twisted into villainy no matter what. Honestly, no matter what it is. And I can give a real world example. Although it might not be super popular or truthful. A few years ago, everyone experienced a lot of people having the normally admirable motivation of saving lives by preventing illness, but it quickly became villainous when it began to be tyrannical. I don't want to make people think too much about the real world, but it is a good example of how any motivation can be villainous, no matter what.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can think of a lot of examples. I'm also trying to not be political, but empathy. Anything can be framed as, almost anything can be framed as, this is for empathetic purposes. Like, it's astounding. Just it's I think a good way to write manipulative characters and a lot of villains is just think about the best way to gaslight people into believing in doing something that's ultimately just complete shit. Like the it's so hard to not get political, but you know,
Well,
Canada's healthcare
politicians
system.
politicians do this very well. So,
Yeah, that's
if we
like the
want
most
to
obvious.
if we want to avoid real world politics, we could just say Star Wars. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
And I can give one real world example that I don't. I mean, it's just Canada's healthcare system where it's like, oh, it's and even that it's not even Canada. A lot of Western countries have this. I just don't understand it. Thank God that's not really in American culture, but like that Dutch woman who um decided to give up. Can't say it on YouTube, but you know what I mean. Just
Mm,
because she was
self
depressed and
self self delete in Minecraft. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and the healthcare system helped her do it, and how that's happening in how we hear these stories uh, from Canada where people who have issues are encouraged towards that, and that to me is evil. I think that's objectively evil, but it's being framed as empathy. So if something
Mhm.
like that can be framed as empathy, think of well, what else can't be? Even I think to a certain extent antinatalism, which is has been on the rise for a long time, that's kind of evil gaslighting. And I'm not of the opinion that well everybody should have kids, but there is a movement to for us to go against our basic evolved instincts, and it's being framed as a good thing. So we live in the age of amazing large scale gaslighting basically, so this is not super hard to understand once you see through some of these issues.
Well, and on that note, we can go to Poison Ivy. You know, her desire, she says, is, oh, I want to save the planet. You know, I want to preserve the plants. Blah blah blah. But we all know she's a villain because her actions are not honorable.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways she could do what she claims to want to do without, you know, torturing and killing people. Um, but she's, you know, a bad guy, so she must. Um, you know, where she could be planting whole forests, and that would do more for the environment than killing a bunch of people. um, but she never does, I don't think. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's could maybe be said, and I mean tell me if you disagree, that it's the results of a character's actions that matter more than motivation, because a character whose motivation is entirely selfish and is not altruistic and is not heroic, but their actions and the way they solve problems and the paths that they choose, if the result is positive and ends up helping people, even if that character didn't have noble intentions, that is a heroic or anti-heroic character, and that character isn't a villain even if they legit didn't give a shit about other people. But a villain whose motivations could be motivations on the surface in the most simple form could be good, like I want to save and protect my people, Magneto. I want to protect plants, Poison Ivy. And those motivations sound good on the surface, but the way these characters execute their goals makes them villainous.
yeah. And it can even be done comedically. You know, not everything has to be super serious all the time. Did you see that? My
Hmm?
lights just flickered. My lights
Oh
just
no!
flickered.
I didn't see
Um,
that. I wasn't looking.
not everything has to be super serious all the time when it comes to villains and heroes. There's a kids graphic novel series called The Bad Guys, and they made it into a movie recently, and I actually really
Oh no! Is it me? Is it her? We lost her! No! Allie, come back! I guess her power was going out. Well, I guess it's up to me to wrap up this PowerPoint. But I don't have control. What do we do? Oh no. Let's see. What point were you on? Anyone can be or become a villain. Yep. Any motivations? We covered that. Let's see. Not all motivations need to be rational. That's correct. A lot of villains have very emotional. Oh, it's just me. It's okay. I screenshotted it because I'm smart. It's just me, guys. I will not shill fiendish again. Maybe at the end, but I think Allie's power went out, so we just witnessed an abduction. Oh no, Allie left us. I'm sure it's just her power. Don't worry about it. I can talk about things other than fiendish once in a while. Let's see. Okay, so the next tips. I assume this is close to the end. Villains who never follow through with actions aren't formidable. Yes, that's true. I think, and this is something that I've struggled with not just with villains, but when writing characters who don't seem to have convictions aren't particularly compelling, and they can be unsure, but every character needs to have a core conviction, right? And especially if you're writing a villain, you don't have that room for being willy-nilly. Like I had mentioned earlier on in the stream, with you have a lot more leeway with secondary characters, even a more leeway with developing your main characters and a protagonist. They can be less compelling even than the villain, but the villain, I think villains can make or break a story. They almost need to be more believable than your main character. Main character can be simple, but the villain has to really present a challenge. And to present a challenge, you have to make them have convictions and carry through with their actions. If a villain makes a threat and doesn't carry through with it, then why are we reading the story? Why am I supposed to want them to lose? Why are you telling me they're evil, right? So that's a great point. Aliens! Oh no, we lost Allie to aliens. Holy hand grenades, we didn't need to know that. Yeah. Michael Ferrero, hello. Valuable storytelling, character development lessons here. Yes, that I need to rewatch when I'm far less buzzed. Well, thank you for joining anyways. Give us a thumbs up before you leave. Thank you very much. The next point, I'll just wrap up the points she had here. Villains can hurt people in any number of ways, mentally, physically, socially, professionally. Correct? Yeah. I don't think I need to elaborate on that. And the last point is ask, why does my villain seek to gain, and why do they believe this is the way to obtain it? That's interesting because we were talking about fight scenes in Creative Block yesterday, and the why and how seem to be points that you kind of need to universally establish at those are questions that seem like they should be asked at every level of writing a story and in every aspect. Oh, Allie's back! Yay! Hello.
Hi.
I took a screenshot of your PowerPoint and I was just elaborating on it on my own. I did it. I managed. I held the fort down.
Well, thank you.
Welcome
I'm
back.
back.
Yeah, I got to the last point, but you can go back and talk about the others if you want.
Oh, okay. There's a huge random storm, and it just like turned everything off all of a sudden. I apologize.
It's okay. I figured.
You gotten all the way through?
I'm on the last point. What does my villain seek to gain, and why do they believe this is the best way to obtain it? And I was saying that the why and how are questions that apply to almost every aspect of a story. The why and how, because we were talking about fight scenes on Block yesterday, and this applies to scenes, to conflicts, to characters. If you understand what they want or what's the point of the scene and how the character executes what they want, or how does the scene play out, how do I write this scene to fit in all the things that need to be revealed, like the plot points and all the character developments that need to go in here. How do I make that interesting? Those are important questions to ask all the time, but especially for villains, because villains are important.
Yeah, I would agree. And yeah, I thought having a little quick tip sheet would be good. Not everyone can go through and make a bunch of charts and stuff and take a bunch of notes and everything. So a few quick tips are nice. And yeah, asking what your villain gains or what they think they'll gain is going to be an easy way, above all, to drive your plot line. Because I know that's about a quarter of the question that I get is like, how do I make a plot? It's like, well, an easy way is to utilize your villain. Villains are often more fun to make than heroes, for a lot of reasons. But asking that is going to be a good way to drive your plot and help your protagonists to also be more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all I really wanted to say. And I'll move on to the next and final slide.
All right. Holy Hand Grenades for $2 says hello, Holy Hand Grenades. Have I mentioned to you that I enjoy your avatar? I know you've had that avatar forever, but I love your avatar because it's FMA. All right. The final slide. Ah, that's sweet. Thank you and happy writing. Thank you all for joining me. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well done. I love that.
And
yeah,
I'm in the process of putting all of my presentations onto sanguislibris.net. That's actually part of what I wanted to talk to you about at some point.
Oh yeah. We shall.
So, jeez. They're saying I sound like Glinda the Good Witch now. I'm very sorry.
I don't know who that is.
From Wizard of Oz.
Oh, great presentation, Ali. Irene can never. Well, I never have time, and Ali always volunteers to do the presentations for this show. So
yeah, Renie's doing stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I should try more. I have a hard time making presentations from like, this is how you do things. I'm more confident doing that about specifically comic related subjects, because I know for a fact I know what I'm doing with comics and visual storytelling. So maybe next time I can finally pull my weight and do that. We can talk about something comic specific.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
That's great.
thinking too, we could go over how to utilize things like charts to do your story.
Oh, how to
Because
organize things?
yeah,
I could talk about that. I have charts and
I know you do.
diagrams
I
and
know you do.
and drop down menus and endless character personality type breakdowns, which honestly I don't even know if they help me, but sure,
Well,
I can talk about that.
specifically, I think it would be good to tell people how to utilize those things productively,
Hmm.
because some people accidentally or accidentally on purpose find themselves doing too much of that and not enough of the actual writing. And I think you've found a good, I don't know if you could call it a balance, but you found a good way to make it so you still have all that, but you you also give yourself the time to put it all into your writing and your artwork. So I think that could be a good constructive thing. That wouldn't just be me, droning on about fucking literature.
No, I mean there's not enough droning on about literature, and you're not droning because especially in comics, there's a sore lack of people taking writing seriously. So, I think if more comics people read literature and took writing and literature seriously, then comics would be more respected, which is what I want. So,
I think
I'm
that's
all about that.
probably right.
Probably. Yeah, probably. When
Uh,
you take your job seriously, it gets taken seriously. Who would have thunk? Oh my god.
what? Shut
What?
up.
Eliza Blue's stinky ass asked what's fiendish about. Would it appeal to me? Um, I don't know what would appeal to you, Eliza Blue's stinky ass, but um, Fiendish is my fantasy mystery comic. It's if you like tabletop role playing games or classical fantasy with a dose of horror, then Fiendish is definitely for you. I think it's obviously pretty appealing and awesome and lovely, but I'm sure it's not for everyone, especially not for kids. It's not like a young, audience thing. Definitely 16 and up. Please don't show this series to kids. I know I have a manga style, but this is not. Yeah, they're boobs, but yeah, if you like,
Yeah.
mystery, and yeah, there are boobs. Oh my gosh, and it's hard
That was
to.
the funniest thing about when you talked to the Girl Scouts, was when they were like, "Where can I read her stuff?" And I was like,
Do you notice I
"Well,
suddenly got like real awkward? I was like, should I? I mean, they're girls, but I'm like, this is not for kids. You guys are kids.
I just talked to all their parents and let them know."
It's so funny. You said that some of the parents read my sample of Fiendish, which Eliza Blues stinky ass. If you would like a sampling for yourself, I have a very large chunk of chapter 1 for free on the website. So go to fiendishcomic.com and just click on the read the comic and chapter 1. I have like 20 pages for free there and little samples for the other chapters. We're 3 chapters in, which I'm very proud of. I'll post a link in chat. But yeah, you can read it for yourself. That's what I always encourage. So because I think that's the best gauge for, do you like my storytelling? Do you like my art? And I think you will. There you go. There's a link in chat.
I too have free sample of my book, but it is not a comic. So if you're into prose writing, that's why Renie and I decided we provided a good, I don't know, view from both
Make a good
ends.
team. Make a good
Yeah,
team.
because I'm writing some comics, but my primary area is in novels and short stories, prose, and the book I'm usually talking about on here is my prose novel. Contrast, thank you. And that I have free samples on my website, which is right there because Renie is awesome.
Yay.
I'm gonna put more on there. I'm adding more stuff almost every day. Ah, there it is. It looks as good as it does purely because Renie is kind. So, yeah. It'll be under.
Like, here are a couple pointers, and Ali built this beautiful website all on her own.
Yeah, it'll be under the Rotting Crown, because usually we're talking about fantasy and world building, even though I try and mix it up a little. So yeah, I think this was a good stream. We got a lot covered, I think.
I think so. It was a very thorough presentation, and I think we kept it on point, which doesn't always happen.
Snarkticon demands more food puns. Do you guys want a special food pun really quick?
Yes.
That I haven't revealed that Renie's not gonna hate, probably, I hope.
Yes, reveal it. Tell us.
Okay, let me pull it up because it involves something that you're a fan of.
Oh dear.
What oh dear?
That I don't. It's just
What
makes me nervous that you're saying, well, this is specifically for you, Irene, more or less.
Well, there's more. There's more than just you that is the fan of this. But I've got to.
It's not about me. You're right. I should stop making it about me.
Yeah, you friggin' blah.
So
I don't know. I can't even do a proper freaking insult because I'm so tired.
Aww. Drunk sick. She's not drunk. She's just sick.
I am. When I'm drunk, I'm just silly.
She's hilarious when she's drunk. She just laughs at nothing and goes to sleep. It's fucking hilarious.
Are you ready for this reveal?
I'm ready.
This is the reveal of the cover that's going to be just on Fund My Comic for my comic Egg Beater.
Show us.
I think I've shown it to you.
Probably
but I haven't shown it to the chat.
Very nice. Well done. Well played.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, everybody go check out Ali's stuff at sanguis.
Hey. Bring that back up. The chat didn't get to read it. There you go.
Oh.
There you go.
You didn't get to read it. Read faster. It's not that.
You've all got to look. Look at them. Hell the Lord, lol, that's Cleaver. Nice. The dad pun, sick. Good, I'm glad the British are offended. Fuck the British, but also I'll take your money if you're British.
Oh boy. This is a whole different level of spice. I don't know what to do with this.
Not really.
Bless you. Am I allowed to show your website again? Do I have permission?
Wait, look, Snarkticon, it's the closest to new Game of Thrones books you'll ever get.
Oh my god, stop. It hurts.
This is some beautiful Dean James artwork, as he has noticed his own artwork.
Not bad.
It's a it's a riff on the Game of Thrones poster. If you don't know,
I got it.
there it is.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Who is Ali Lauderdale? That's me. That's me.
That's Ellie.
I put my real name on my books, and my name online is my name plus half of my business name. It just made it easier, I thought. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Either way, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh, you get it. Okay, they all get it. That's good.
We all got it. We've all seen Game of Thrones. Okay, everybody
Okay.
back to your website. Everybody go check out Allie's website. Back Egg Beater.
Thank you. Okay.
And
Yeah.
also, let me show this off real quick.
Yeah.
Website, mine, yay, fiendish. Eliza's stinky ass. This is the website that I was recommending you check out. I gave it a revamp like a month ago. It's beautiful. I'm so proud of it. Look at all the scrolling graphics and stuff. Like, and I have access passes. It's like a Patreon thing that's built into the website. I'm so damn proud of this. Holy hand grenades. You love it when I talk about fiendish. You guys all do. It's gonna happen regardless of your protest.
You're definitely revitalizing the entire indie industry, I think, and I stand by that.
Aw. I mean, I don't think I'm doing anything that amazing, but I just want to make a damn good comic that is good as a comic because I'm tired of people not using comics as Netflix pitches and not respecting the medium, and I don't particularly care what people say. I understand that comics are easier to they lend themselves well to simpler storytelling because of the nature of how comics work, but I don't think that means comics have to be simple. So, what I know what my strengths are, and they're world building and a lot of world building, and I'm good at art. So, and the character stuff is what I've been working very hard on. But I think with every fiendish book, the character work gets better and it gets easier as I work on the series, and I'm very proud of what we've created here. 2.5, which is the latest Fiendish book, we're shipping right now. People are getting their books, so I'm very happy about that. And I've been slowly chipping away at chapter 3. I'm still at the layout stage, but that's because I'm so insistent on this book being amazing. There's a lot in this book. Like, Jake has seen it. Allie, or I would love for you to see it if you have time. No pressure. But I am so damn proud of this, but also I have more revisions to do because there's a lot that needs to go in it and it has to be really, really good. But yeah, if you want to check out the beginning of the series, I've been scrolling through the preview. This is the entire preview that's been on here. You can buy the book or read it digitally. I have two options here. You can read it on the website for a fee, or read it on Global Comics, which is a digital comics platform. And chapter 1 is the only chapter that's up on there right now. Let me just go over so you can see. This is Fiendish on Global Comics. But chapter 2 will be releasing on Global Comics this month. I think I have it set for like the 22nd or 24th or something like that. So there you go, because I want to reach a wider audience. I think chapter 1 it's like an action chapter. It's just establishing the baseline of the story, but chapter 2 was like the really good hook. So I can't wait for that to get out there, and hopefully people like it. So there you go. Oh, Snarky, thank you. I do my best. I think I think I'm getting better at that, and I am big on marketing, right? Because marketing isn't just, oh, you buy ads and you put your book out there. No, find your strengths and find what your story is about, and not just that, but figure out how to communicate that in a simple way and in an appealing way. And that's why I've been doing the videos, the world building videos on my channel, because I know my strength is world building, and well, let me nerd out about the world building for Fiendish, and I think that would be a hook. So there you go. No B spin, not that. So that's not a problem either. Comics mate, hello. I don't know why.
Someone said that they had money to spend, so I'm just gonna put my link to my store in the chat where you'll find cool stuff, but you'll also find puns. So go look at my puns. They're great. I have new puns on there that involve food. Oh, that's yeah. That'll take you to my books, but I put a link to my store envy in the chat.
There you
That's
go.
where I have put my puns.
Awesome. Yeah, go.
That is the link to my shop off my website. But yeah.
And thank you for that link too. Down Go Solo. All right. I think we about covered it. I think we both need sleep. Well, I have work to do because I have an auction tomorrow. So I will be working, getting very little sleep, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on Red Valkyrie's channel. So don't forget about that. Be sure to set your clocks for 4 p.m. Eastern, and the auction will be beginning then. So if you would like a chance to bid on my art or art by many other amazing artists, tomorrow is your chance, 4 p.m. Eastern. I'll be tweeting out the link, or if you guys know Red Valkyrie, Red Valkyrie's YouTube channel, go there. They'll be streaming the auction. Yeah. Any shout outs, last words, Ali?
I'm sorry you hate browsing holy hand grenades, but maybe someday we'll do a merch only stream where we will have only you on there watching us talk about our merch.
I could talk about my merch all day.
But no, go and write and read and do everything that you want to do.
Everything.
I believe in you. No, not everything, but I believe in you, all of you, in your journey. Yeah.
Thank you, Darth Ali, for believing in me. All right. I'll see you next. Ali and Renie will be in 2 Fridays, and it'll be on Ali's channel. So we'll see you then. Good night. Bye. Bye.
I'll never get sun, Rachel. Bye.
Never.